Yeah, what up, Kev? You know what I mean?
Buddy?
Let's
What's
go.
up, man?
Can't eat past midnight. I'm like a gremlin right now. You know what I mean?
Man, what's
Can't
up
eat
there?
past midnight. Got a surgery tomorrow. Like
I don't want to. I don't want to say anything ableist right now.
Is that
Those
your position on this currently?
those Paralympics commercials are probably hitting a little different right now before you, aren't they?
Hey, they always have hit perfectly fine. For me. I've always felt like I could relate just a tad bit. Oh man, yeah.
So
man.
what's going on?
Surgery tomorrow, man. So if y'all listening to this episode, you know the day it airs, I am headed to surgery later on. I don't remember the name of the joint, but basically my ACL, when a lot of people's ACL will tear, mine instead of tearing, it stood strong. Good job, ACL. You know what I'm saying? Is it ATL? ACL ho. Anyway, my ACL stood strong, but it stood strong enough to rip a piece of bone out of the top of my tibia. So
Ooh, that's a weak.
The
That's
ACL
a
is
weak.
connected to this bone that it ripped out, and they gotta put that bone, reattach that bone, and with screws and
That's a weak bone.
staples. What's up?
Nothing.
What'd you
I
say?
said that's a weak bone, and then I realized that probably didn't
Pause.
capture the sentiment that I was looking to capture.
Yay! Pause. Puppy feet. So yeah. So yeah, I had to surgery tomorrow at 1:30, man.
Well, nothing but the
Goddamn.
best, man. You know.
Oh, thank you, man. It's very rare to get that from my friends, but yes, I appreciate that. Do you want to hear what my sister said? Shout out to my sister. Shout out to Jess who listens to the show. Big up to Jess, who's also my sister, but not by blood. But my blood sister said, after finding out that I still have to go under, in spite of the fact that it's of course arthroscopic surgery, you still got to go under. And she said, "Well, if something happens, you know, just look down from up there and give me the lottery numbers."
Oh, that's why they call her DJ Warmth.
And I was like, "Well, yeah." So we went back and forth or whatever. I told her I wouldn't give them, and eventually she told me apparently I'm useless, alive or dead. Then, and I was like, "Yeah,
Wow,
that's pretty much true."
wow.
But this is why, when it happened, you know, I mentioned like I was making light of it, but my teammates, who I don't really know very well, were like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, you have to make fun of this." I came from a family where if you are breathing and you are able to hobble, then they just start talking about you because that's my family. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, but you can't. Come on, you can't put an
No.
entire squad of people through diversity and equity inclusion training and not expect them to show a little bit of sensitivity. You know what I'm
you
saying?
know what? That's an excellent point. That is an excellent point.
Sends a mixed
I'd have
message.
I'd have been like, "What up, hop along? Let's go." And I'd have been on. I just would have been like, "Well, looks like you're out of work
What's up
tomorrow,
there?
fam."
What's up there, Gimpy?
Yeah, giddy up, gone, huh?
Would you hop on over to the bench there, Slappy? You're doing us no
Right.
good out there on the
Right.
floor. You're taking up space.
What's up, useless knee? You know what I mean? just something completely not clever and just more mean than anything. What up, broke knee? You know what I'm saying? Incapable of walking guy.
Oh man.
Kev, man, I know you don't follow sports very closely, but are you familiar with this Jerry West situation, man?
What? No. What?
All right, I was gonna see what your thoughts were on it, but Jerry West, legendary Laker, legendary. I'm talking not just legendary in the sense of possibly being the logo, right?
What
But
did he do?
legendary-
Did he take his music off Spotify?
They took his music off Spotify. So let me tell y'all real quick how legendary Jerry West is for the Lakers. Back before the NBA was popular, especially popular in LA. Jerry West and Elgin Baylor used to ride around in the back of a pickup truck and pass out free tickets and flyers to go see the games at the sports arena, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't even know if it was at the sports arena yet. I think it was before that.
Mm.
So you want to talk about helping build a franchise. There is no other person currently still working in the NBA that has helped build a franchise as much as that, right? Randomly, the Lakers have decided to take away his season pass. He had like permanent season passes.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, they just randomly took him away. So now, basically, he's no longer. He can buy tickets to the game, but he's technically no longer welcome to the games. Now, New Yorkers kind of noticed with the Charles Oakley thing, right? I don't know if you remember that. Yeah. But I would argue that Jerry West is far more important to the Lakers than Charles Oakley was ever to the
But there was no reason given.
No reason given.
Well, then what? Well, how did it get out then? So somebody made the point of announcing that it happened?
They asked him about it, and he mentioned it. And he said the words. I'm just saying, I've never heard of a more stupid thing. I know he works for the Lakers, but they didn't do that to Elgin Baylor when Elgin Baylor worked for the Lakers. All I'm saying, I know he works for the Clippers now, but nah, that's one of the most trash things I think I've ever heard any team do to anybody.
That's very weird, man. What did he John Stockton them?
Right there, right on the court, right in the seats. You know what I mean? So what I'm hoping is that Jack Nicholson, and this is where the opening question actually does really come in.
Uh-huh.
Now that I've given you some of the events, should Jack Nicholson or some of the famous people that are famous Lakers pitch in or pull from their bank accounts and buy Jerry West season tickets?
100%.
Absolutely, right?
Absolutely.
It should be a thing.
Yeah.
It should definitely be a thing.
Matter of fact, I think Billy Crystal should chip in too.
To be honest with you, he should. Because basically you're never going to see a championship. You might as well pitch in for his team. All right. Anyway, I just thought that was so one of the most horrible things I've read in sports in 100 years. Like
it seems very random too.
Well, I have my opinion.
I mean, like, is there that much animosity?
There must be, but it's hard, right? Because he's probably responsible for 8 of the last 11 championships. Well, actually, I'll take that back because one of them, he was on the team that won, right? So that's directly nuts. Responsible for at least one of them in his tenure. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Indirectly.
And who took the seats? Who took the space?
You know what? That's a very good question. I'd like to know who took the seats, but it's probably some NFT or Bitcoin.
Billy Crystal. Oh, you think it was the crypto.com people?
Watch it be the crypto.com people. No,
they gave it to Logan and Jake Paul.
Right? Exactly. Could you imagine? It's like...
No, have you been watching the Olympics?
I have not. I have not.
Really, very weird.
It's weird to watch them, or it's weird to not watch them.
Well, it's weird because my theory, and mark my words, I'm putting this on tape right now. Mm-hmm. And I told my wife, and I've made some pretty phenomenal calls in the past on various topics. My prediction is that the Americans are going to get home in a couple weeks. Mm-hmm. And all the people who were saying, oh, the snow conditions are just incredible, right after they wipe the hell out, just smeared themselves all over the ice or all over the snow, they're going to come back and they're going to say, that wasn't snow. That was ridiculous. It was the most unsafe thing I've ever faced. It was like a human rights atrocity.
It's that bad?
Well, it's like they do the overhead shot of the ski runs, and I'm sure this has happened before. I know I've seen it before, but it's like all you just see is a white strip down a mountain that's clearly not seen snow in this season at the very least. It's like wow. How did you guys do that? Because I know how you do phones, and I know how you
This is a perfect setup for what we're going to talk about. All right. All right, man.
All right.
That is more sports than our audience has ever been used to. So let's go ahead and move on to the show. Kevin, you ready, man?
Yep.
All right, let's go.
Rap Sucks Radio. Blah, 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 blah.
What up, y'all? You alive on Rap Sucks Radio with your homeboy Track Life and your fam, Kev Sakota.
Fake snow.
That ain't snow.
Fish scale.
Oh, man. So much coke that you can run a slalom. Literally. Man, thank y'all for tuning in, man. We appreciate each and every one of y'all. If you'd like to catch past episodes of Rap Sucks Radio, you can go to rapsucksradio.com or any of your favorite podcasting platforms. And if you'd like to catch this on TV, man, it's getting close, boy. BTSN, man. It's relaunch and upgrade is close, man. So go to BTSN, that's Behind the Scenes Network. What you do is you download the app or channel on your Roku or any of your Amazon Fire devices, and we are right there with plenty of other dope content. BTSN, Behind the Scenes Network. We want in, man. Check, go to what is it? Is it BTSN Pass on Instagram? Let me do that. Let me check right now.
BTSN.pass, isn't it?
Yeah, go to BTSN.pass on Instagram and check out all of it. Kind of follow them and just kind of stick with what the stuff that they're doing. Man, they got some exciting stuff coming up, and we're happy to be part of it. So. Word up. All right, Kev.
This is about to get contentious.
I have a lot of opinions on this.
Good.
I have a ton of opinions on this, but I am going to, we'll see. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. Dun, 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 dun. No, I'm kidding. Oh, you know what? Before we do this, after all that anticipation, Kev, we're moving away from our past episode titling, right?
No, I don't know.
We should announce.
I don't know if it warrants an announcement. I wasn't feeling. What was it? Hella bugging.
Hella bugging. Yeah. Was it
hella bugging?
On the fly. Yeah, hella bugging.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe this is just a very special episode of Rap Sucks Radio.
This is for the soft piano plays. All right, Kev, let's do it, man. You ready to have the Awkwafina conversation?
And the Awkwafina conversation.
All right. Topic title for this, Kev, titled it, "It's Hard for Me to Say Sorry." Or, is it too late now to say so? Never mind. All right. Awkwafina leaves Twitter amid criticism over AAVE appropriation. So
real quick, what's AAVE?
What is AAVE? I was like, learned. What is it?
It says it in the article. African American vernacular English.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Good.
Which was not a term I was familiar with. Evidently, not a term you were familiar with either.
They don't give it to us in the handbook. But I'm glad it didn't say Ebonics, which basically breaks down as ebony phonics. So
what happened to Ebonics? What happened to Ebonics?
They stopped teaching it in school. Remember, we was teaching it back. All right, so she left Twitter over criticism over basically appropriation or quote unquote black scent. This is sourced by the Griot. Players involved are Awkwafina and Twitter. Here we go. Awkwafina is taking a break from Twitter after addressing critics who said the Asian American actress did not take enough accountability for appropriating black vernacular throughout her rise to mainstream stardom. I'll see you in a few years, Twitter. Per my therapist, Awkwafina wrote on Saturday, calling the social media app an ingrown toenail and assuring her fans that she would be active on all other socials that don't tell you to kill yourself. I think that's a reasonable thing. To my fans, thank you for continuing to love and support someone who wishes they could be a better person for you. I apologize if I ever fell short in anything I did. You're in my heart always. In a near 350-word statement published earlier on Saturday. Awkwafina, real name Nora Lum, formally responded to the backlash surrounding cultural appropriation claims that have followed the 33-year-old for years as she gained industry acclaim for roles in popular films such as Crazy Rich Asians, The Farewell, and Ocean's 8. All right. Awkwafina's statement began with, "There is a social-political context to everything, acknowledging that Black people are disproportionately affected by institutionalized policies and law enforcement policies. While Black culture is stolen, exploited, and appropriated by the dominant culture for monetary gain without acknowledgement nor respect." All right, we're doing okay here. The rapper and actress then commented on the ubiquity of Black culture in the global mainstream, saying it manifests into widespread use of African-American vernacular English, there you go, AAVE, among the internet TikTok slang generation. She also referenced the popularity of hip-hop, which she said has now anchored itself as a mainstream genre in music history. In life, linguistic acculturation, immigration acculturation, and the inevitable passage of globalized internet slang all play a factor in the fine line between offense and pop culture, Awkwafina continued. Acculturation is definitely defined primarily by psychologists as the process of acquisition of cultural aspects of a dominant culture by members of non-dominant cultures. This is a lot to read, so I'm going to head and stop here. Is there something that you wanted me to specifically point out? Because it was 350 words, so yeah.
No, I just wanted to hear you read all those big words.
It was happening. I was in the same honors class.
She wrote a lot of big words.
It was a very, let's set it off. This is a very Asian response. It was very, you know what I'm saying? This is wow. You know what I mean?
Oh, man.
Like,
the SAT's digital now, Trek. It's a level playing field.
I guess so.
800 verbal score for everybody.
I am like, wow, there are a lot of people that didn't read all of that. There's a lot of people who didn't read. And I'm not knocking her for her response or the length of it. I'm just saying.
A perfect 10 in linguistic gymnastics.
This is strictly for the fans. A 350-word response. This is like when rappers were doing those 100-bar verses. Only your fans care about the rest.
I was going to say, who did that? Cannabis?
And the game? Is it the game?
Oh, he did?
Game? Yeah.
I think it's the
I
game.
think he did the 100 bars and running thing, right? Did he? Do you see how neither one of us listened to it?
I don't know. I mean, I know somebody did it. I'm not. Yeah. When you said that, I was like, oh yeah. Who?
Yeah.
Didn't remember who.
Yeah.
The game's underrated as far as I'm concerned.
That's true. It's not. But I'll just say that right now to keep the show moving. All right, listen, just real quick. When cultural elements are copied from marginalized culture by members of a dominant culture, these elements are used outside of their original cultural context. This is written by Taylor Ray Almont. Often members of the originating culture expressly state that they do not condone being used in a way because of the original meaning of these cultural elements are lost and distorted. Awkwafina wrote, as a non-Black person of color, she will always listen and work tirelessly to understand the history and context of AAVE, with what is deemed appropriate or backwards towards the progress of any and every marginalized group. All right, Kev. Per usual, first up to bat. Go ahead, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think she made an effort. You know, she probably was feeling
50 words is quite an effort.
Feeling a lot of pressure. This is one of those circumstances, I think, Trek, where if you don't like what she said, you're probably right. If you do support what she said, you know, you could probably make a case for that.
Sure.
If you didn't want her on Twitter, well, you won for now, I guess.
Irrelevant.
I don't think. I guess my point is that nobody needs to be wrong here for us to have the conversation.
Oh, there's some wrong people here, Kev. So let's do this. First of all, we talked about this when it originally happened. I think the response to it.
I think it's been going on for a while, which led to this, right? From what I can tell, because we have talked about it before. We talked about her before,
right? But her popularity largely increased over the last, let's say, 5 years. And
yeah, absolutely.
Recently, with the release of Shang-Chi, this came up because, not at random, but because she mentioned that she wouldn't take roles where she spoke in a foreign Chinese
like
accent.
An Asian accent, right?
An Asian accent, right?
Right.
So, so people were like, well, why can you do one, but you can't do the other? And
Sure.
That's where this came up, right? Which kind of led me to the question, like, well, I didn't really think about it. Growing up in West Covina, man, like if you have to not be offended by it because it's going to happen. But I do have a point about that a little later. But when she said that, I was like, well, wait a minute. Does that mean that you are aware, right, that there is a way to present yourself that is maybe uncomfortable or possibly, I don't want to say racist because that's a strong word, but racially, points directly towards another race? Man, are you appropriate? I hadn't thought about her that way before until she said it. Then I was like,
did you ever meet her because wasn't she running with Far East Movement in them?
She was.
Back in
I met.
Yeah, I mean, I met her recently, briefly,
cool.
but yeah, never, I barely ever hung out with the Far East Movement guys, but I talked to, Kevin them a little bit, and not a lot. You definitely dealt with them more, but I never ran into her. But I mean, the thing about it is that I wanted to talk about it because I think we can have a conversation without casting trying to act like we can have a definitive judgment on whether what she did was good enough as far as an apology or an acknowledgement, or whether what she did originally that warranted the apology and the acknowledgement was a gross violation of, what she should or shouldn't have been doing. And the thing about it is that she's not a kid, but she's not, I'm older than her. I'm an Asian
She's
dude
old enough to know
who grew up loving hip hop, who did not grow up around a ton of black folks. And I'm positive, and I can say this now for a few reasons. One, this is a podcast that about 2 people listen to. 2, I am not underwriting a large portion of Disney Plus's bottom line over the last 5 years. And 3, I'm a little bit older and maybe have thought about this a little bit more. And I'm not saying I have. She's probably had to do a lot of thinking about this, right?
Especially recently, yes.
I am positive that there are at least a small handful, if not a large basket full of people who I've come across in my past who, because of the way I've spoken on a certain occasion, they may have been like, what? Or put off or straight up offended by it. And guess what? They're right to feel that way because that's the way I made them feel.
Okay. I've known you for quite a while, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say if they were reaching. But this is the conversation that I wanted to have, though. I'm glad that you mentioned that because this big, large word of appropriation, right? This, it's a word that looms over everything, right? But I always feel like it's misdiagnosed or defined very poorly in argument, right? Like, for example, I don't think that a non-black person rapping is automatically appropriation. That doesn't make any sense. You understand what I'm saying? Or I don't think that a non-Polynesian or Hawaiian person playing the ukulele is automatically appropriation. You understand what I'm saying? This is my definition, whether it's dictionary or not. This is my personal definition of appropriation, right?
Okay.
It is taking or borrowing something from a culture without acknowledging where it came from while profiting off of it. That is my full definition, right? So, with that definition, much to the chagrin of my people, I would say the most appropriated culture I've ever seen has been Polynesian and Hawaiian culture. Second would be black culture. Because people take from Polynesian culture and never just the tattoos and the surfing and the bro and the shaka and all of that. Like, it's no big deal.
In the aloha shirts.
In the aloha shirts, but instead of shaka, it's like hang loose. I mean, that is just completely, that's complete thievery. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Without ever once returning to or supporting or even benefiting the native Hawaiians in which this was all taken from. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, in my opinion, that might be some of the largest appropriation I've ever seen. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not one to be able to tell you or say who's fighting back against it or how people feel about it. That's not my place. I just have seen it so like, whoa, you guys are doing, go to Orange County, man. It is the most, fake Hawaiian people you'll ever see in your life, right? So, with all that being said, to make this a little shorter, people use Wu-Tang as an example quite a bit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, in this conversation?
In this conversation. And I'm like, but see, Wu-Tang was reverent. Wu-Tang never denied where it came from. They didn't pretend to be, any of the things that any of the Shaolin or Kung Fu movies that they presented. They didn't pretend. No fake accents, nothing. It was simply just a reverence and sampling, right? And they were very respectful, in my opinion, of the good things that came from those movies, right? So it's not the same. You know what I'm saying? It's not the same as, as any other thing that we now that, as taking something like I mentioned from Hawaiian culture, like printing a hang loose shirt, you know what I'm saying? And when it's never been hang loose, you know what I'm saying? You just basically took that directly from them. It's not the same. So bringing this over to Awkwafina, right? It's always been a little strange to me. Not, you got to shut up and sit down. Just, sometimes it seems like a lot, but it's all right. It's like, you know what I mean? It's a lot, right? Like the whole image, take the appropriation ideals away. It's still a lot. The act is a lot. Like the glasses and the slang and the basically full on cross color outfits. It's like, this is a lot. You know what I mean? But I also grew up around people like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm just like, I'm 50-50 on it. I've always been 50-50 on it. You know what I mean?
But that's the point. I'm sure you're not the only black person who feels the way you do. But because you feel that way and other people may feel that way, that's not an excuse to say it's 100% okay with it, or it should be 100% okay with everyone. Right? If that's the thing that's going to make you say, one, I'm offended. Two, whether you're black or not, one, I'm offended. Two, I'm not going to watch your movies. That
makes sense.
Understandable.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And I'm not speaking to her as much as just saying I think we all have to acknowledge some form of like, I think most people I've met engage in a form of that. And again, most of us are not at the level of recognition that she's at or whatever the case may be. Doesn't make it any better. Doesn't make it any more acceptable. It just makes it more ignorable. So if you're going to fire shots at her and you are a human being, there's a chance that maybe you've done something similar. Like you were talking about rappers. There's only one rapper that sounds like MC Paul Barman. You know what I'm saying? Well, every other rapper who is not black in some way has now that I have AAVE in my holster there has appropriated some form or fashion of that. Unless they're rapping maybe in Spanish or something like that. But even then, no.
But that's the problem. Isn't it the problem? The problem is that you recognize that, right? But I've never blamed. Remember the Bruno Mars conversation that people were having, the argument that people were having.
That was a little weirder to me, to be honest.
Well, it was wrong. First of all, Bruno Mars was not appropriating anything, but second of all, and shout out to the visionaries. This is why Dan, who doesn't like me, or got upset. My argument was, it's not Bruno Mars; it's the fan base. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have anything. It's not even Awkwafina. Awkwafina, for all we know, well, I know now after reading about it, but for all I knew, had black friends and grew up like that. Like, I didn't know anything about her. Didn't care too much to delve into understanding the what and why of Awkwafina. You know what I mean? The same with Bruno Mars. I just figured I listened to his backstory, him talking about the type of music he was into, and was like, yeah, it makes sense that he is into this. You know what I'm saying? But the fan base only accepting it from Bruno Mars, only accepting it from Eminem, only accepting it from Vanilla Ice, right? When there are black artists that are doing the same thing, and let me double down on this, just so people who listen to this don't say it's this is about because track is black, he feels this way or whatever. I was recently put on to the fact that there are black anime companies. I had no idea this was happening. I had no clue that this was happening. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Now, I did some research, and not all of them are very connected or willing to give back to an understanding, a cultural understanding, right? Right? There's some respect, artistry respect, but also what I didn't discover was a group of black kids that will only buy from them because they're a black anime brand. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now that could exist. And if it does exist, then I wouldn't say the black anime company is trash. I would say that fan base is trash. And this is what I argue with Danu the whole time. Like, it's not about the artist. It's about the fan base, because they're the ones who end up being trash. I didn't only watch tennis because of Venus and Serena. You know what I'm saying? I'd watched tennis before that. This is sports, so it's another different thing. But my point is, people get into things because they see themselves in it. That's fine. You know what I mean? But to only accept it because you see yourself in it, that's where the trash begins. You know what I mean? So I don't have an issue with Awkwafina. I have an issue with those.
That's been my problem with a few, if not quite a few, Asian hip hop fans. And I think it can be said for any hip hop fans who I've come across who aren't black.
Right.
And not all of them, but
of course not.
I've seen examples of that where it's like, I'm only going to support this, but other than Eminem, I only listen to heavy metal or whatever. It's like, I get it. I mean, that's totally your right. But at the same time, it's like, then you don't get to have a nuanced conversation about, your right to use the N-word. It's like, you don't.
There we go.
So stop it.
There we go. Exactly. And see, we're going right down the road I want to go down, because this is my life experience. The Awkwafinas of the world are actually my life experience. You know what I'm saying? The only problem, and I'm not accusing her of any of this, so leave her out of this, is when I first moved to the suburbs, I didn't grow up around white people. I just wanted I want that to always be noted, that I did not grow up around white people. But everyone I knew was calling it nigger music. Right? Rap was this disgusting thing that black people did. You see what I'm saying? By the time I was a senior, everybody was rapping. Mm-hmm. Everybody was DJing. You know what I'm saying? So imagine my shock when, and y'all the promoters, and y'all not paying black folks to DJ or MC. Do you see what I'm saying? Like the way to kind of take something that you didn't have any appreciation for and didn't represent you pretty much at all. You know what I'm saying? And then turn it into something that only people of your hue or background should be involved in or be the light holders of. You see what I'm saying? Again, that's not an overarching accusation, but I could probably give you a few names, which I won't do on this show, But I can give you a few names of a few people that are pretty popular right now, or have went through a stage of popularity, that said that to my face as a child, as a young man. And I'm like, oh, you got a rap group? You producing now? That's interesting. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And this isn't particularly Asians or Filipinos or anybody. This is multiple different people. You know what I'm saying? So,
but that's the same mentality that leads to when you get put in a corner for whatever reason, whether correctly or incorrectly or fairly or unfairly, you don't get to then turn around and say, well, I have black friends. It's like, you're not getting put in a corner for the things that your black friends said or did.
Not at all.
You did something that upset somebody. They may be wrong. They might be right. If you're not grown enough, once you grow up, to contend with that and think about it, then maybe you didn't need to be putting yourself in that conversation to begin with. But you did.
Sure.
So then you have to contend with it at some point in time.
Sure.
Right?
Yes. Well, I agree
or not, I guess.
Yeah,
you don't have to.
Or you don't, because you can just isolate yourself into your own group. But here's the other thing. This is where the rubber meets the road. All right. This is not Awkwafina's fault of what I'm about to say. And this is not any other person's fault, that is capitalized or become popular off of someone else's culture, right? With regard to a black scent or AAVE or whatever, you see what I'm saying? There has been a lot of social economic loss due to it for a lot of different people. You know what I'm saying? There's been people not being hired because of it. There's been just quite a bit. Not being allowed in certain schools. There's been a lot of loss due to, vernacular, right? Mm-hmm. You got rich off of it, right? I like the response, but that would have been enough for me to say you really see the problem. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like a lot of DJs where I say, listen, you would tell security to turn away Wu-Tang if they came to this club before they were Wu-Tang. You wouldn't want them in this club. Let's keep it real. I was at a club where Old Dirty Bastard's son showed up. And I had to check the DJ, like, before I knew it was Old Dirty Bastard, before any of us knew it was Old Dirty Bastard's son, they was like, man. And I'm like, what you mean, man? This is the music you playing. You understand what I'm saying? So when you think of the reaction to people who speak with certain slang, when you think of the loss, when you think of the fact that you know how to code switch and you can code switch, right? And we're able to become very popular, make a lot of money off of this code switching thing. You know what I mean? I don't think she backed away from it at all. Matter of fact, I like her response. I'm not reading all 350 words, but the quotes I've seen, have been great. Kev, my whole thing is, I still don't think she recognized the problem. At least for the
I'm sure there's a chance that, and the thing is, when you're on that, at the level that she's at in terms of just eyeballs, people who are paying attention to every word that she says, for better or for worse, you're going to get reaction from, a large contingent of people who I assume are very diehard fans of hers from back in the day, who continue to be diehard fans.
Sure.
Who may be of various different ethnicities. You're going to get people who say, like, why didn't you just keep your mouth shut? Which I've seen. You're also going to get people who have dedicated their life to a level of scholarship on race issues and historical studies that give them a different lens, but probably a more holistic, 10,000 foot, like, I can see the whole field analysis of what you said, but also how what you did that you apologize for fits into a larger narrative of our society, right?
Sure.
And you're not gonna like that. But that's okay. And my hope is that she continues to engage with the people, obviously, who have put her where she is, but also she can then engage with people who maybe my assumption is also that many of the scholars who took a very, sort of took offense to what she said or took issue with the way she handled the conversation. I don't know whether they're fans of her movies or not, or shy away specifically because she's part of them. But, if they can have a conversation, and she can sort of engage on that level and say, okay, well, this, now I have a broader understanding of why you, found what I do offensive, or why you felt that my apology was insufficient. Right. Or my words were insufficient. It's like, okay, well then, and then if you do understand that, then, well, maybe you're going to grow a little bit,
Sure. I have a question. It's a horrible question, but it is a question. Would it work the other way around?
What do you mean?
Could a black, let's say, comedian, not in one setting, not in one joke, right? Not in one role. I'm talking take on the personality, the accent, the uncomfortable, stereotypical accent of another culture and become as successful?
Oh, I'm not sure. I mean, probably.
You think so?
Well, the thing I didn't want to get into is, well, so-and-so did this or so-and-so did that, so it should be okay for her to do it. It's like, no, if you offended somebody, you offended somebody.
Right.
Just like Eddie, I can't even think of, well, wait. Cube.
Right, well.
But Cube's a lunatic, and I still love him. I will still go and listen to this record. But Black Korea was objectively offensive.
It was absolutely an incredibly offensive.
Right? But it's okay. He did it, and it's like, okay, well, it's my choice whether or not I'm going to listen to it. It doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean I speak for all Asian people, right? Eddie Murphy has said crazy stuff.
Sure.
Dave Chappelle has done Asian accents, right?
In one setting, though. What I'm saying is,
right,
to take on an entire personality. You know what I mean? Like, remember when what's your man's name? What's the dude from Seattle? The Poppin' Tags dude.
Macklemore.
Macklemore. Remember when Macklemore got in trouble for dressing like a stereotypical frugal Jewish man when he performed or whatever, and people were upset about it. But we might have talked about it on the show. I'm not sure. It might have been too long ago. Maybe the show wasn't around yet. But anyway,
yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, we talked.
I vaguely remember that happening, but
my thing was, a lot of people were tripping like, well, what is everybody so mad for? But I got it. I got it immediately. I was like, yo, that is an actual awful image, whether it has some truth to it or not.
Right.
That's an awful image. You know what I mean? Like, that's to at least to my peers who express, man, that's a horrible image. We don't like, that's not an image that we like express. So I don't know if I necessarily found Awkwafina's image awful to me. It was just kind of strange. Like, all right. And like said,
I think there are many people who would say that you approach a point, right? If you want to think of it as a spectrum, where you approach a point where it becomes a form of blackface, right?
Sure.
Like, it's if you put actual blackface on, it's a whole separate conversation, right?
It's a whole different conversation. Yeah.
But that's the extreme. It's not the most extreme, but it's an extreme, right? When you talk about, right? And so the answer for everybody in terms of where their opinion or their emotions lie, or where their experience speaks to all those things, always lies somewhere in that spectrum, right? And it doesn't mean that's 100% genuine to them. Sure. You know, I also think that all of our opinions, which we want to believe are 100% genuine to us on any of a number of different issues, are tainted by our own insecurities to a large extent. Not always.
No, to a very large extent. Agreed.
But
Although
to a large
not mine,
extent.
But most other people's, yes.
Yeah, not yours. Not yours. You just like falling down on the court. It's all right.
I was pretending to be a white basketball player.
John Stockton would not approve.
Right on the court, man. Right there on the court. John Stockton was right. No, I guess in the end, we're both. I mean, we were never going to argue about this, but we're both on the same page with this. But
it's because you're one of the good ones.
Same to you, Kev. Same to you. No, I think that by and large, whatever, people of color, I don't know. What are we now? Like, whatever, minorities. I don't know what we are anymore. Just the collective us are jockeying for space and entertainment more than ever before. Right? I really do think that. I think now there's a lot of voice, and there will continue to be a lot more voice, right? And when that happens, a lot of lines and boundaries are crossed. They're crossed in a lot of communities, whether it's the LGBTQ community, whether it's the Black community, whether it's the Asian community, Latino, Hispanic, whatever community. These lines are going to blur because of our experience and inexperience with each other. Right. So my thing, if we know how we always do the thing where if you were a PR agent for said person, right? Mm-hmm. If I was asked what Awkwafina should do, I would have said, first of all, you should have responded immediately. Immediately upon the overarching accusation. You should have immediately responded. Right?
That's what we should all do. Guess what? Very few of us do. What's the first thing we do? You know what the thing is we do immediately? But I didn't mean, come on, you took it the wrong way. No, you're wrong. No, I didn't even do that. No, come on now. You're such a snowflake. What are you doing? Come on. Well, you know me.
But see, if you understood, this is why people should take.
My grandfather was 1/8 Native American. Come on.
Right? Go for Broke came from a company of Japanese soldiers. Y'all use that. Listen. All I'm saying is the Rap 6 Radio PR agency says you should always respond immediately. Respond as quickly as possible and as thorough as possible. But genuinely, you don't have to do this in front of everybody, but genuinely take time to understand the argument. I feel like Bruno Mars openly said that he understood the argument and explained his position. And I feel that's why Bruno Mars. And that's why I think it went away quickly. You know what I mean? But when you wait, it's not so much your fault. Like, it's not you. It's when you wait, it just starts to seem like you're hiding behind your fans, right? Because your fans are now responding. And people are saying what you're saying. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
but I can see it being I can't identify with her situation simply because she is a bona fide celebrity, right?
Absolutely.
But especially at the rate at which her star just sort of took off, right? It's like I could see it being real easy to ignore it.
Sure.
Real easy to hide behind everything that you're talking about, It doesn't make it right. But as far as the PR agency, I want to recollect a situation involving a friend of the show who criticized Jay-Z live on air for falling off and not living up to the same kind of expectations that he set with Reasonable Doubt and Original Flavor or whatever. And I thought Jay had the perfect response, perfect apology.
Oh, I'm trying. Was that I'm trying?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying, man.
I'm sorry. I'm trying.
Definitely not a friend of the show, by the way.
Shout to The Rock, by the way. The Russian Olympic Committee. Doing great work out there.
Oh, my God, man. So much coke that you can run a slalom. Yeah. I mean, we could, if we wanted to, take some time to get into Joe Rogan actually saying the N-word.
You want to know who can give a good apology? It's Joe Rogan. I tell you, this is my theory. This is my theory about Rogan. If you've taken an actual kick or punch to the face, mm-hmm. and this is not a comment on what effect that may have on cognitive ability, because I think he's a fairly sharp dude. But if you've taken an actual punch to the face, it's okay. It makes it a lot easier to say, I'm sorry. Like, you know what? That was terrible. Because if you've said something that actually would make somebody want to punch you in the grill, you've seen the worst of it. What else do you have to worry about?
Had this view of who told the joke? Kevin Hart, right? He said he's most afraid of MMA fighters because they're real. They're actually real people you find in a grocery store, right? This is what happens when a dude that could probably break multiple people's necks actually is intelligent enough to speak for himself too, to have a platform, right?
Right.
Now, I, for one, we talked about the Slant Show. Like, I used to listen to Joe Rogan, but for me, I lost interest because the episodes were too long. Not because he said anything or did anything out of line. He didn't have or at least I didn't recognize the views that he's recently shown over the last year or so.
Yeah, we got to do the quick disclaimer. We are not defending anybody. We're not defending anybody. I don't think we're even defending ourselves all that well.
No, not really.
We're not defending anybody. Rap Sucks Radio defends nobody. We are prosecutors. We are not defense attorneys.
There is something that is always clear with Rap Sucks Radio, at least from the Trek Life side.
We also don't care.
Exactly. But also, I am right and everyone else is wrong. Period. It doesn't matter how you feel. I'm right. So don't worry about it. No, but my point with this is, or where I'm going with this is that it seems like he increasingly became a more horrible person. Now, it may be that I just didn't recognize it. The episodes were so long that some of his nonsense was lost in the parts where I kind of fell asleep and just was waiting for him to allow Elon Musk to talk or whatever. But I feel like, I don't know, it just seems like a little bit of it's like the pandemic just sent people over the edge, and he's one of them that was like, we're all right, I'm over the edge. But a lot of people will point out where I'm wrong. I honestly can't say that I was an avid listener, but then, I don't know, man. I don't know, whatever context, whatever. Just keep the N word out your mouth. You know what I mean? Like, it don't seem that hard. Just don't do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just don't. You know what I mean?
Don't drive drunk. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Don't use the N word.
Superman's cape.
Don't hit your kids. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, don't hit Joe Rogan. But just I don't understand the argument. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand it, how you come back. Like, yeah. And then he removed 70 podcast episodes?
Yeah. You know who doesn't care about that? Joe Rogan.
He got paid already.
I can't. That's something that I saw, and I knew I didn't know who wrote it, but I know the mentality of the person who wrote it. So I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not all the way on board with this, but I totally agree with this attitude. It's like, the dude talks for 3 hours multiple times a week. He's gonna say some stupid stuff.
I mean, yes.
I also assume that was a diehard fan who found a nice, gentle, clever way to defend him, but. As
I probably would if I actually liked dude. But I I mean, I don't know. Oh, I mean, come on. The dudes. What did we expect? I don't know. Whatever. Right.
Well, that's the thing is that you say you used to listen to him more. It's like he's been doing a lot of the same stuff for a long time. So let's put it this way: if his podcast was a half hour long, I would listen to a lot more of it, probably, even just to hear the silly things that the people who I already knew I didn't like said. The only one I've listened to recently besides Elon was I just finally listened to whenever Chappelle was on, which was, I had to look back. It was May of 2021. I was like, you know what? This would probably be a good way to sort of reacquaint myself. And it was a great conversation.
Sure.
But Dave was starting to sound like somebody who was getting a little irritated with people expressing the way they felt about his comedy, whether he disagreed with a lot of it, right? And then it's grown into what he's been going through over the last few months or whatever. It's like, and same thing with Rogan, because it was just May of last year, so COVID was happening already, right? And so they're talking. I'm like, all right, well, you can kind of see where this is headed, without having to put all the pieces together. It's like, okay, right. Well, but this is a man who just, if you got $100 million or whatever it was, it's like, hey, take all you want out of there. I don't care.
Whether I agree with the person or not, and the only canceled person, quote unquote, I agree with is Dave Chappelle. But even then, first of all, you already know my thing about comedians. You overstate your value. Just tell the jokes. And when people don't like the jokes, shut up about it. But the other thing is, God, being canceled can get you rich, can it? Man. Being canceled is a way to get rich really fast.
If they cut Rogan right now, he gets to walk with the bag, which I don't know if that's the arrangement.
Yeah.
But I got to believe I hope he was smart enough to have an escape hatch built into whatever the deal was, right? Where he ain't going to walk away empty-handed nearly, and then turn around and sell $9.99 subscriptions to all the idiots who still want to hear him. Yeah. Have Alex Jones on or whatever. It's like, dude, if he gets a fraction of the people who were listening to him before, it's done. He's over. It's over.
It's just a lot of shade about to be thrown right now, but it was my argument with people who talked about independent rap sales. Oh man, how come you not selling like such and such? Oh, well, such and such is coming off of his third record with a major label budget. So the fact that he's selling 15,000 units is actually a bit underachieving. I'm just saying. It's going to be more than a person who's starting from scratch that never had that record label push. It's the same thing in Joe Rogan's thing. Like Joe Rogan is going to come off of a $100 million if they boot him, which they're not going to. And I don't know whether they should or shouldn't. But Joe Rogan's going to come back and it's going to be like, all right, like you said, all right, I got a third of my audience back and it's set up through my own channels. So now what?
He might jump back on Spotify and say all kind of N-words.
Well, I wouldn't doubt it, man, because this is it's all about
have the Kickstarter attention. Just ready to fire up. There's just little Patreon. Have his Patreon page ready to push live.
Yeah, and everybody, $5 if you say it too. Like $5 so you can call into the show and say the N-word too, just to let it go. You know what I mean? He did have to apologize for that, which I thought was funny. Like, some things you got to watch your mouth on now. But it kind of goes hand in hand with what we just talked about. Of course, one person is far less offensive. But, I don't know, man. Why us? Let me get into my last point with this, Kev.
Okay.
This is exhausting. All right, so a lot of people, Kev, have had take issue with my response to, what many people call acting black. I think that's a bit heavy-handed or whatever, right? And they bring up things, you know what I'm saying, that other people do, right? The conversation you didn't want to get into. Well, such and such did this and such did that, right? But it feels like when people are enamored by black culture, they're always enamored with the most horrible part of it, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'll be like, okay, so it's Black History Month. There's been black astronauts, doctors, black inventors, black, and gangster rap is what you're enamored with. I mean, I'm a hip hop head myself, but I'm saying when we're enamored with black culture, it just seems like we're enamored with the darkest parts of it. You know what I mean? Whereas I don't feel like other cultures suffer that. You know what I mean? I feel like the beautiful and exalted things about their culture is that's why I wasn't super shady on Rachel Deladoza. I was like, well, damn, this is the first person I ever seen enamored that actually was enamored with something worthwhile. She was all up in the NAACP tripping. But you know what I'm saying? Most times it's like, what, you a Crip? That's crazy. Why would you be a Crip? But nah, she was like, I'm going to do this black. I'm about to be black. Like, whatever. I'm about to be for the cause. I'm like, there you go. But you understand what I'm saying? Like, I think that's the other part. That's the other side of this. It's like, but of all the other things that have been accomplished over time, like, why that? Why is that the image that, you know what I'm saying? Like, that you want, when I'm around my family, my sister or whatever, I might talk a certain way or joke a certain way, laugh a certain way, tell a certain, whatever. Yeah. I'm around my family or whatever. But I'm not saying, I don't think black people need to change anything. I'm just saying, why all of a sudden is that the focus? There's so much more that's been accomplished over time. Why is that the main thing? You know what I mean?
Of course. That's a completely valid question. I think human beings do that weird thing too, It's like, that's why it's like you say that, and then I think about, okay, well, what is the reaction of a lot of Asian dudes who see a white guy embrace Asian culture, right? And move to Japan or move to China. I was like, this man was so enamored and so interested in the culture. They moved to a completely different country, learned a language that, guess what? We don't speak all that well in the third or fourth generation being here. And now that they have a wife who looks like the 90% of the women who live in that country, now you want to be angry about it? It's like, I guess I follow your logic, but at the same time, it's like, well, but is it really that big of a deal? Like,
here's the worst part, though. Let me throw. So you mentioned it's something that happens all the time. I mentioned something that happens all the time, and here's what happens. Then you will be at dinner with this person, and they'll say, "I'm more Asian than you." Do you know what I'm saying? And see,
we're all idiots. That's the thing.
Well, but see,
right?
This is my problem, though. This is why I don't think people are listening, and why, not dissing Awkwafina for it, but why I went over to all those steps, because she's not going to listen. Not entirely, not in depth. I just don't believe it. She doesn't have the space to do it. She has a fan base and an audience that's defending. She's not going to listen. Anyone in that position would be driving themselves hard to actually stop and listen and be genuinely concerned with reaction. Matter of fact, Dumbfounded gets much respect from me for having a pure conversation about it and genuinely listened and genuinely gave back his response. Like, I learned a lot, right? I don't feel her listening that intently, that deeply. Right?
I don't know. Like I said, I hope that it maybe adjust the trajectory of however she's choosing to deal with it. It's not my bit. It's not really. That's not going to affect my life in one way or the other.
It's
really
not. But it will quite a few other actors and actresses and entertainers.
Sure.
And Kev, she doesn't have to anymore. This could be the end of it. You understand what I'm saying? This could be.
But you can also make the argument that she didn't have to say anything because of where she's at. She should have just ignored everybody. Is that healthy? Probably not.
Probably not. But she doesn't have to. But the rest of us, I don't know, kids, right? I mean, I got a 14-year-old daughter, man. You don't even want to hear the stories. Like, you don't even want to hear it.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
You know
I mean, and that's. Yeah. I mean. Like you mentioned Wu-Tang. Love Wu-Tang. Do I want to hear him say chinky eyes? Not really. Not really.
No.
Could do without that.
Well, you weren't okay with the whole club being called that?
Oh, wait, what?
There was a whole club. That was the name of their. That was the name of their crew.
But I mean, but that's the thing I'm saying. It's like, I'm sure there are Mexican American people who are like, we're not all norteños. We're not all, Pablo Escobar, who's not even Mexican, but that's who you want to associate with me. Where, every, Halloween comes around, 9 kids out of 10 want to be a ninja, but only one wants to be Ellison Onizuka. It's like, okay, yeah, you're right. That's your point, excellent right? Okay, whatever.
Yeah. I'll run with you on that. Kids is one thing. I just think it's crazy to first of all, I think being enamored so deeply in culture, it seems another culture is odd to me. Wanting to learn about and explore and understand other cultures is one thing, but to be damn near Rachel Deladoza or move to another country only to become, not to learn and explore, but to become is like, that's strange. And that's always been strange. Just like I feel like, growing up in the suburbs, but then driving 30 miles back to become a gangbanger is crazy. Like, what? Why would you do that? There's like, you literally are commuting to gangbang. That's a you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a job. Like, it's crazy. But
and your hours are so weird, dude. You're driving against the traffic. You understand this, right? You're driving against the traffic.
Yeah, you have to. You're gangbang during a certain hour. Like, you got to be there by 7 to beat the traffic. Drive by 7:30 to make sure that you got to get on the freeway. Like, come on. I don't know, man. I could go on and on, but I think it is a topic that needs to be discussed a little bit more. I think understanding is important, and like you asked me earlier if I had met her. I've met her before. I mean, there was nothing off-putting or it's not memorable at all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's the other thing. Most people are not insane. Whether they're the smartest person in the world or the dumbest person in the world, most people are not sociopathic lunatics. If you can sit down and talk to somebody and look them in the eye, you're going to realize, guess what? I should have let that guy in the club because he's just trying to come in and have a drink, just like everybody else here.
Sure.
Oh, by the way, remember ODB? That's his son.
Dude. Word up, man. All right. Dead horse. We get into dead horse status. So, it's a longer. This is like our longest episode, by the way. Thank y'all for tuning in, man. This has been Rap Sucks Radio. I am your homeboy Track Life. That over there is your fam, Kev Sakota.
Hey.
Oh my God. Okay.
If I'm gonna get canceled for something, I want to get canceled for doing a really bad pigeon accent, and I'll probably get canceled by my cousins, which would be sort of the full circle. It's like a Shakespearean drama.
It'd be totally fair.
Just get beat up by my cousins with a bunch of Samoan people backing them up.
Hey.
If you got to go out, man, that's the Hawaii 5-0 way to do it, boy.
I'm not going out in Hawaii that way, though, by no stretch of the imagination. But I will. Hey, I told you before. I went out there. I went to Hawaii 3-4 years straight with a fade. I was treated one way. I went back with locks and was treated much better. So all I know is
shoots.
There's some truth there. But anyway, thank y'all for tuning in, man. If you'd like to catch past episodes of Rap Sucks Radio, you can go to rapsucksradio.com or any of your favorite podcasting platforms. You can also catch us on television on BTSN, that's Behind the Scenes Network. Download the app or channel on any of your Roku or Amazon Fire devices. Check us out. We're on there with plenty of other dope content. BTSN, Behind the Scenes Network, we want in. And also go to btsn.pass on Instagram to follow everything they're doing, all the new updates and everything. And you can check us out on Rap Sucks Radio at Rap Sucks Radio on Instagram as well. That is all for all of y'all. We out of here like last year. On the count of 3, we say peace. 1, 2, 3. Peace. We out of here.
Aloha. Mahalo.